Um, Good morning. This morning we're joined by Alford Sibanda. He's a master's student in electrical and electronic engineering. Good morning, Alford.
Good morning, Tinus.
Alford, thank you so much for making time to speak to me today. I know the students are pretty busy with COVID and everything. Could you tell me, Alford, how did you become an engineering student? What brought you to it?
Okay, so my path to engineering, I would say, has been in my blood for a while because my father himself was an electrical engineer. So in a way, it's like growing up, having someone to look up to. You was one person who I looked up to, and many years later, I find myself in the same shoes as him. So that's how I came about doing engineering.
I keep on reminding myself not to force my children to become engineers because it seems like it's a disease that you just have to pass on. I'm going to try my best not to do that. Alfred, so you chose to do electrical and electronic at Stellenbosch.
Yes.
Could you just maybe tell me why? Why Stellenbosch? What brought you here specifically?
Okay, so with Stellenbosch in particular was with the opportunities that were offered in comparison to local universities around. So I had 1 year prior at a technicon, and I felt like in my time there, while I was learning more on the practical aspects of engineering, I wasn't really applying myself to advancing more on the theoretical side. So I decided in time to change to electrical engineering at Stellenbosch, even though that meant like having to redo a whole year. But I felt that the choices that I made worked out well because I've learned more in my time here.
Okay, fantastic. And you came from Zimbabwe, did you, or were you in South Africa at that stage?
At that stage, I first came from the UK, and then I came to South Africa, and then for a year at Technicon, and then I came to Stellenbosch.
All right, gotcha. So tell me, Alfred, Stellenbosch has a bit of a reputation for being Afrikaans and white. What was your experience coming into the campus and into engineering in that regard, if you don't mind my asking?
Yes. So my experience was that in the first few years at RIS, yes, there was the heavily Afrikaans dominated aspect of things. And if I remember very well, I was the only Black final year engineering student when I was at RIS. So I won't deny that that part of it was heavily seen. But as far as doing engineering in the department, there were a lot of, or rather it's like there was a handful of people of color who I studied with. And I felt as if in our time, that's like as we formed a bond in the net, it became closer to like a family environment. So in a way, it made it more bearable to study engineering.
I want to also ask you about just your experience in terms of the English aspects. Were you part of the cohort that were taught exclusively in English, or did you have to take some of your modules in Afrikaans?
So in our second year, that's when the language policy was enforced heavier, because I understand that it was the same policy in first year. So in first year, because it's traditional, it's like we split half English, half Afrikaans almost, so to speak. And then in second year in particular, it's like halfway through the first semester, that's when the transition happened. And I noticed that for most students, it was a bit of a struggle to try and engage with lectures. So as a result, we stopped attending classes in general because you would come in and then the person translating couldn't actually hear clearly, or rather the translations were too literal and not focused on the engineering aspects. So as a result, like one would become demotivated to attend lectures, and then it's like you just stay in your room or go study elsewhere. So that aspect of it was difficult to handle. But as we got to third year and fourth year, I think the language policy was changed by then. So it became English, and then it's like the numbers started to pick up again. So that's what I noticed from my time.
So did you go back to classes then, or did you just stay at home still?
I did go back to classes again.
That's good. So could you tell me, Alfred, what is your master's on? What are you doing research in?
So my master's is on multi-phase induction generator control. And in particular, it's to do with trying to improve the efficiency and fault tolerance of induction machines, which are the primary workhorse. I think about 80 to 90% of electric machines used worldwide are induction machines. And this is based, or the work I'm doing is based on pre-existing machines to try and improve them for fault tolerance and better control in order to improve efficiency.
Okay. And could you tell me, what are your plans after that? Where do you want to go and work?
So my plans are mainly to work in a research and development facility because in my time of studying, I've noticed that I enjoy having to approach problems which require to be solved than to do something which is repetitive, so to speak. So I think that in a research and development facility, I would be more better engaged to actually stay and actually be part of such a place.
Oh, fantastic. I hope you get an appointment at Stellenbosch University. We could definitely use your skills. I believe our faculty has academic support available for students who struggle academically, things like hot seats and extra classes and stuff. Did you ever make use of them? And if you did, were they useful?
Yes, so with the hot seat for me personally, for the first semester in first year, I didn't actually go to them until my marks came out. And then I knew that I had to be there. So I pretty much stayed there for the remainder of the year. And I would say that that's one of the, one thing I can point to which definitely helped me was those hot seats. Because even then, it's like if you had issues beyond that, there are people they're assigned to you to help you after hours. And that really went a long way to helping me pass my first year modules. So I'd say that's something which is definitely beneficial. And as the years advance to in second and third year, the hot seats sort of fade away, but you still have demis and tutors who you can speak to. Some, like usually the ones in your class are the ones that like the go-to because they are usually in engineering as well, in electrical, and they are willing to help you. So I'd say that that's definitely a beneficial thing for me.
You're right. Yeah, it sounds from what I understand, it sounds like it would be useful if people could go earlier. Like you said, you had to first get the shot before you went. And the sooner you can go, the better. And the other interesting thing, like you said, is it's usually students supporting other students. So they have a much better understanding of what you're going through and what you need to know. That's very useful. So I think the last thing I want to ask you is maybe about, you spoke earlier about balance between academic and social life. Is that something that is even achievable for an engineer? Do you think an engineer can have other things going on? I know you were also on the student committee of engineering, I think.
Yes.
To what extent were you able to get other stuff going in your life while studying engineering?
So with engineering, like I said, the balance is hard to come by because the case of do you study until like sunrise to sunset, or do you find time to do other things? So for me, it was trying to develop my skills outside of that. So whether it's like community interaction, just personal development in projects that I was interested in, that goes a long way to shaping you in the future. Because once engineering stops, you realize that there are other aspects which are required in life to say that if you leave, like when you leave in engineering, you all have the same piece of paper. So if there's 100 of you in your class, you all have the same piece of paper. And then the question becomes, what makes you different to everyone else? So I would say that developing skills beyond that definitely goes a long way. And for me, I've found the balance. Like I'm still working on it. It's still a daily improvement, I'd say. But I think I'm getting closer and closer.
That is such a wise answer. Thanks, Alfred. I every time I speak to somebody in industry, the answer they give me for very important skills is human interpersonal relationships with other workers, having the soft skills, being able to communicate. And I think to a large extent, people think making engineers is like making robots. But in the end, like you say, it's just a skill set that you take with you. You still have to work with other people. So that's a very nice answer. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your wise answers with us. It's been really interesting talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time and all the best for your masters going forward.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. And thank you for the opportunity once again.